Sorry, I was recording this a moment ago, then I stopped because I wanted to do some research about something I forgot. I want you to write something down if you care to. This is not that important, although I think it's potentially so. Because I think that when people are falsely accused of anything, that's a very serious problem in our society. Very serious problem. I loathe and detest, and very few things make me angrier than to be falsely accused of myself or to see anybody else be falsely accused of something. I want you to write down the words the preposition the, veritas machine. And if you go to Instagram, there's a person, I don't know who they are on Instagram, who trolls me all the time and is always hitting me with that whole Pizzagate, Epstein, Pedo Island, adrenochrome, which I didn't even know what that was, and I had to look it up. That whole crowd. And it's one thing when you go to his Instagram page, the Veritas Machine, but you click on his bio or whatever, and you go to a YouTube page of his where he has a couple of videos. And if you're going to accuse people of something, no matter how severe, and what's more severe than child trafficking, if you're going to accuse people of anything, you really, really ought to have your ducks in a row. You really, really ought to have your facts straight. And you go to this guy's YouTube page and you see these 2 videos he's done, and he's literally like, here's Vanity Fair magazine. Alec Baldwin's on the cover. Hillary Clinton's on the cover. Here's Hillary Clinton with Harvey Weinstein. They're all, don't you see? Don't you see? But we're going to get into that later. We'll discuss that later. Here's Bono. Here's him holding up a sign. These are all Luciferian, I think that's his word. I mean, it goes on and on and on with this, spectacularly inane, almost incalculably stupid rhetoric about cabals of Hollywood people and pedophiles and people, eating children, drinking the blood of children. I'm like, wow. I go, wow. And all those trolls, many of whom, by the way, are bots. You go to their page and there's some pictures, always the same kind of like glossy pictures of some woman who looks like she's like a drawing. There's never real people standing up and taking responsibility for what they're saying. It's a bot. But this is a guy, you go to his site, the Veritas Machine, and you go to his site, and you could click onto the YouTube page, and he's got a voice that he lends to this. Let me just say that go to my podcast, not that this is anything I offer in an evidentiary way, because I don't think I need to, by the way. Go to my podcast, Here's the Thing, at WNYC. We're leaving WNYC shortly, but Here's the Thing. Rob Morris is my subject. Or just Google, Here's the Thing, Rob Morris, Love 146. A gentleman who I admire deeply, who I may do an Instagram live chat with now. I can't wait. What a great idea. Rob Morris, the founder, the CEO of Love 146, one of the great child trafficking, anti-child trafficking organizations around. I was introduced to him several years ago by my brother Stephen, who worked with him, and Rob was on my show, and listen to my interview. Here's the Thing, Rob Morris. Google that, it'll bring you to the site, and you can listen to my interview with Rob Morris, the founder of Love 146. I'm going to ask Rob to do an Instagram live with me and have him kind of talk about the difference between people who really are warriors in the fight against child trafficking and all this politically based nonsense, like this sociopath, the Veritas Machine. I love when people say to me, why aren't you joining us in the fight? We know you're guilty, you're covering something up because you're not vocal about joining us in the fight. And I'm like, well, I don't wake up every day and say I want to join the fight against muscular dystrophy. Does that mean I want people to die of muscular dystrophy? I don't wake up every day and say I don't wake up every day and say, join the fight against AIDS. Does that mean I want people to die of AIDS? The logic, or I should say, the absence of logic in this crowd is absolutely numbing. Number 2, Of course, the destruction of private property, of course, the looting and burning, regardless of who is responsible for it. And I think everybody with any sense knows that not all of this is being done by the disadvantaged, the politically marginalized, Black Lives Matter supporters and organizers. They're not all the ones that are always going out there doing this damage. There are people who are working for the other side who are doing the damage to frame them and make them look that way. We know that. I mean, if you have any sense, you know that. What percentage of each is there? Who knows? I'm not a statistician involved in these crime stats. But I do want to say that protests of any kind in this country are healthy and normal and a part of the way we live in this country. In other countries, you protest and get the shit beat out of you. Well, that's, China, Russia, Korea, Weimar Germany, Italy under Mussolini. The way it's becoming here, a very fascistic tone, a very fascistic pattern of suppression of protest. Protest is good. Protest is right. Protest is healthy. Questioning the authority in this country now more than ever is genius. And of course, a byproduct of that is going to be a certain amount of damage, which is horrible. But not all protest leads to that, although there are certain law enforcement organizations and individuals who are doing their best to make sure it does, who are provoking the protesters and shooting them with all kinds of apparatus and gases and so forth. Protest, which is resulting, at least on the news, in a lot of violence and a lot of, I don't want to see any cops get injured. I don't want to see anybody get injured. I don't want to see any property damage. But there is the result of that protest. There will be some of that. There will be, and I hate this phrase because it sounds so blasé, collateral damage. Just like when this country goes to war. Just like when the United States goes to war and kills thousands upon thousands upon thousands of women and children. The deaths of innocent children are on our hands as American taxpayers, so we could try to get plenty of oil out of Iraq, blah, blah, blah. Iran, Afghanistan. Maybe it's not all about oil, but strategic, maneuverings that the net result is about oil. If you think that the American military is going to these areas because they just really want these people to wake up every morning and play, a different national anthem and have democracy and freedom. Democracy like we have here, where everybody gets to vote any way they want to. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. There are thousands of people in the last 20 years. There are thousands of children that are dead because of you and me and the stuff we put up with these maniacs in Washington. And they're going to look at you and they're going to go, collateral damage, it happens, for the greater good. And we try our best. We dump leaflets. We tell people to evacuate. We make sure we give it our best effort. Okay. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they give it their best effort. Still, thousands of innocent children have died in the Middle East and elsewhere because of U.S. foreign policy, because of you and I. Weapons that you and I paid for. Weapons that you and I paid for have killed these people. Protests have collateral damage as well. Would we like to lessen that? Sure. Of course we would. Any sane person does not want any police officers to be injured. We don't want the protest to be injured either. And all these cops who are laying it on extra heavy, all these cops that are, smashing women in the kneecaps. I saw that thing where the woman was standing there. I mean, there's so many, countless videos now. It's so demoralizing of the woman standing there and and this guy is hammering her in the legs and the thighs with a baton. And you want to go, oh my God. We have some of the worst trained police in the world in this country now. We really do. You want to believe that guys are getting into the police department with a lack of emphasis on training, like we're talking about bringing people into the Kiwanis Club. Like it's a club. Yeah, Terry's a nice guy. He's a good fella. From the neighborhood. I know Terry, grew up with him. Take the test. He gets in there. And anyway, you get the idea. You get the idea. A lot of great cops out there. I've said this 1,000 times. The worst enemy of the average police officer is a bad police officer. And on TV now and on the social media now, you see a lot of bad police officers out there. There seems to be a lot of them. You know, and this, I mean, not even to mention shooting the guy in the back 7 times. I mean, come on. You can't train people to apprehend somebody. What do you need? Like a net you throw everybody like out of the Gladiator scene in Spartacus? What do you need? What do you need to get it done the right way? What's the answer? The answer is not shooting some guy in the back 7 times. This is Trump's America. It wasn't like this 4 years ago. It wasn't like this 4 years ago. Every word out of Trump's mouth is a dog whistle to these people, saying to them, go ahead. No one's going to stop you. We're not going to stop you. I'm not going to stop you. And that's Trump's MO with everything. I'm going to have the Republican National Convention on the grounds of the White House in violation of the Hatch Act. Try and stop me. Come and get me. I'm going to do this and charge millions of dollars to my hotels for Secret Service people and overbill them. Try and stop me. Come and get me. And of course, with McConnell in the Senate, McConnell, that blood-sucking little weasel who's the greatest traitor. And I can name you the 5 greatest traitors to this country in the last 50 years. McConnell's one of them. McConnell's one of them. Who seems like a fairly bright guy. He's an opportunistic whore of the highest order. And Jane Mayer's profile of him in The New Yorker proves that he has no center, shall we say. But McConnell, I mean, you thought he might have had the sense to try to at least curb Trump. Sit him down and talk to him, say, hey, listen, we could have a great working relationship if you just take a few tips from me. And try to, never. Trump is like a 9-year-old boy at a demolition derby. And no one's stopping him. Banging, crashing, wrecking, smashing, destruction. That's all he cares about. All Trump cares about is destruction. The Veritas machine. Check it out. The height of nutbaggery as far as I'm concerned. This guy is entertainingly so because he's so fucking stupid. Cover of Vanity Fair. The royal family. Alec Baldwin. He's on Epstein's phone list. They're all pedos together, but we'll get to that later. Love 146, Rob Morris, my podcast, Google, Here's the Thing, Rob Morris. And last but not least, protest is good. Protest is good. Looting, arson, destruction of property is not good. It is not good. If I were president of the United States, I would host a protest in Lafayette Park. I'd say, let's do it one Saturday a month. You say whatever you want to say. Come and protest. Scream at tell people how you feel. That's what we have in this country. Freedom of expression that way. Freedom of speech. They've opened the gates of the asylum in this country. They've opened the gates of the asylum in this country. And Trump, the Randall McMurphy of that asylum, got a hold of the keys and he let everybody out. And for all you adrenochrome people out there, if you don't know what I mean by Randall McMurphy, look it up. Sorry, I was recording this a moment ago, then I stopped because I wanted to do some research about something I forgot. I want you to write something down if you care to. This is not that important, although I think it's potentially so. Because I think that when people are falsely accused of anything, that's a very serious problem in our society. A very serious problem. I loathe and detest, and very few things make me angrier than to be falsely accused of myself or to see anybody else be falsely accused of something. I want you to write down the words the preposition the, Veritas machine. And if you go to Instagram, there's a person, I don't know who they are on Instagram, who trolls me all the time and is always hitting me with that whole Pizzagate, Epstein, Pedo Island, adrenochrome, which I didn't even know what that was, and I had to look it up, that whole crowd. And it's one thing when you go to his Instagram page, the Veritas machine, but you click on his bio or whatever, and you go to a YouTube page of his where he has a couple of videos. And if you're going to accuse people of something, no matter how severe, and what's more severe than child trafficking, if you're going to accuse people of anything, you really, really ought to have your ducks in a row. You really, really ought to have your facts straight. And you go to this guy's YouTube page and you see these 2 videos he's done.